What's going on, y'all? I'm here to talk about the really cool buffs and changes I've made for Mudsdale in my ROM hack before I get into explaining the thought process behind the ability choices, although you can also pause the video and read the top of the screen and that explains the water absorb. Uh, Before I get into explaining the more in-depth, like all of the new moves that they have access to and stuff like that, I need to have an important disclaimer for new viewers to pause the video, read the description. I've got important background info about the game that'll give you just a good way of understanding the way I approach buffing Pokemon and changing Pokemon in my hack and in all my hacks. And when you're done with the video, you can check out all the other links down below in the description. I've got other videos covering every single Pokemon, and then most importantly, you can go over the move guide. Super, super important. When you're done with the video, don't click off yet. It'll mess up the watch time, but look at this. Super important. I've got every single move categorized in great detail, so definitely give that a read. But yeah, Mudsdale. Last thing I'll say is also make sure you drop a like, leave a comment, sub if you haven't already, all that useful stuff. It's really good for the algorithm to get my videos out to more people. But yeah, Mudsdale, I think he's kind of boring, but he's definitely cool with the new abilities and stuff. So pure ground that's immune to both grass and water is really cool. So as you can read on the top of the screen, I chose water absorb because a lot of the Pokedex alludes to it being resistant to water at the very least, and of course there's no water resistibility outside of like drought and stuff technically, but that doesn't make sense. So water absorb is cool because it's literally made of mud, right? So obviously it's hardened mud. That's the whole point of Mudsdale. It's like it's hardened, caked mud on its legs that make it like so hard and strong. But you can still imagine that if it gets wet, it'll still like absorb that water, right? Especially because the Pokedex literally says, number one, here, I'll read them. It spits a mud that provides resistance to both wind and rain. So that's one thing, resistance to rain. I was actually considering dry skin, but there's a Pokedex entry that literally says the mud won't dry out even if it's exposed to the sun. So there you go. If anything, there you go. It's not super dried out mud, right? So it can still absorb water because, as you guys know, mud is water absorbent. It soaks up water. It's made of more water than like dirt. So water absorb fits really well, I think. And yeah, it talks about liking the play in the mud, and it also says if it isn't showered with mud on a daily basis, it'll get upset. And so yeah, any mud-themed Pokemon I think fits water absorb anyways. Lots of like stuff like that. So it's cool ability. It was either that or Sheer Force. Obviously Sheer Force is good, but there are other pure ground types like Hippowdon who are like bulky, high HP, high attack, high defense, good Spadef pure ground types. I think him being slightly more offensively oriented makes sense, while Mudsdale having more utility with the immunities makes more sense. So that's why I opted to go for Water Absorb instead of Sheer Force on Mudsdale for the last slot. And then Sap Sipper is pretty self-explanatory. Most like herbivorous Pokemon, like especially like horse or like deer Pokemon, can get Sap Sipper. And vanilla, it's pretty much all Pokemon that the Japanese name for Sap Sipper is herbivorous, I believe, or herbivore. Why am I saying herbivore? It's herbivore, bro. I'm not fucking British, but yeah. Mudsdale, very, very tanky. And obviously stamina is good old reliable stamina. It's got body press, it's got iron defense, it's got amnesia, it's got reliable recovery now in sediment, which heals you by 2/3 in sand, 1/2 otherwise. So that's really good. So I don't like stamina, right? Because stamina encourages encourages lazy gameplay, and it also encourages risky gameplay. It encourages risking crits, which is not something that this game is like. Obviously you're gonna have to risk crits here and there, of course, that's a given. But stamina turns you into a crit magnet, where you're just sitting on the field and hoping they don't crit you. Not to mention there are a lot of guaranteed crit moves in this game, especially later in the game, or moves that are a 50% crit rate, which are basically guaranteed when the AI uses them against you, right? Like in terms of prep. So those will definitely check your stamina and make sure that you can't just sit on things for the entire fight. But in theory, you can amnesia, stamina, sediment, cheese your way through an entire fight. In theory, it's not actually that simple ever, but in theory, something like that could work. At the very least, you can cheese a few Pokemon with it. But it's not my favorite. I would personally only use stamina for like 1v1ing a Pokemon or maybe 2 Pokemon, right? And after that, I would be like, okay, I'm gonna get out of here before I like test my luck too much, Not to mention this thing is just great offensively. I give it more speed because in Gen 7, when you ride on it, like he runs around relatively quickly. He's not like a fucking speed machine. I gave him the same speed as Glastrier because I see them both with the same logic, right? Like they're horses still, so they can still gallop like relatively quickly. 65 speed is not great by any means, but with a Choice Scarf, the big difference of like 35 versus 65 is that 65 can actually abuse Choice Scarf, while 35 pretty much can never abuse Choice Scarf. Very niche in implications there, but with 65 base speed and Choice Scarf and a neutral speed nature Mudsdale, you're outspeeding base 100. base anything below base 100, you're outspeeding. Anything below base 100. You also have Trailblaze, which is kind of cool. You could go for that, but yeah, both of those are really good. And then if you get a plus speed nature Mudsdale, you're going crazy. You're outspeeding base 110 Pokemon. So either way, really fun. Choice Scarf Mudsdale. And of course, for anything that's faster that you want to one-shot or Oko or outspeed, you can always use a single-use consumable Quick Claw. Keep in mind there is item clause, so you can only get one Quick Claw per boss fight. That's intended. Of course, you can play however you want, but that's intended. So ideally use Scarf in some situations, but both are good items on him. And also just, bulky Assault Vest or Key Berry or Resist Berry or whatever other, so many cool items you can take advantage of in a ROM hack like this, because all Pokemon are intended to be switching between their abilities, their EV spreads, and their move pools constantly. In Sweltering, you don't have that move relearner, but here you do. So you have tons of freedom and flexibility, and a really cool exclusive move on this guy is High Horsepower. So that is now I actually reworked it. So if you're a returning regular viewer and you have not remembered that I changed High Horsepower yet, because the only recent video that I mentioned the change in was the Glastrier one, right? So yeah, to refresh your memory, High Horsepower, or if you're just returning, or if you're a new viewer, High Horsepower, as you can read, is a 2-hit move now. So the flavor is that it's like they're using both of their hind legs to kick at the same time. Like donkeys and cartoons will like kick both their legs up, kind of like that. So he's gonna, I think even in his animations, I believe Mudsdale literally turns around and kicks both of his legs out. So it's really cool. It's a 110 power move, so it's stronger than Earthquake, and it's weaker than Headlong Rush, but it has the utility of number 1, not dropping your stats, number 2, hitting twice, which is huge to break through Sturdy, Focus Sash, Energy Shield, Multiscale, etc. And it drops both attack and special attack by -1 per hit, so it's -2 attack, special attack, and it hits twice. So it's a really cool little exclusive tool for Pokemon with, like equine type body plan or hooves or something like that. So I believe the list is about 25, maybe 20, 25 Pokemon in the entire game that are going to get High Horsepower. So it's a cool little tool. And obviously you still got your Headlong Rush, which is good with Scarf or with Quick Claw, just to get some stronger kills that Earthquake might not be able to get. And you've got tons of cool coverage like Close Combat and Superpower, Strength, Stone Edge, Wild Charge, Play Rough, Takedown, Blaze Kick, Key Crash, Heavy Slam, Zen Headbutt, all types of stuff like that. And other stuff, utility things like Battle Cry and Yawn. It pretty much sums it up, honestly. I think I've covered basically everything. One annoying thing, which is actually a reason I was considering not giving it 2 immunity abilities, is because it makes the AI function kind of weird. So if you don't know how immunities work with the AI, if you have an immunity ability on your Pokemon, the AI will have a 50% chance or a 1 in 3 chance, depending on, I think it's actually a 1 in 3, because it's guessing between all your possible abilities. So it's going to guess if you have Sap Sipper or Water Absorb each turn until you reveal it. So the best way to use it is to hard switch, right? You can hard switch on a grass move, hard switch on a water move. That way you don't have to deal with any weird AI shenanigans or 50-50s, right? But if you're not using it that way and you're sitting in front of a water type, there's a chance it'll go for a different move, which can definitely fuck you up if you're trying to switch around. Like, oh, I have Water Absorb, so they won't go for the water move. That's not how that works. They only know you have Water Absorb once it's revealed, once it activates. So yeah. Also, Sap Sip is cool offensively because it gives you a plus attack boost, so that's cool too. So you can use that offensively with like Quick Claw or Choice Scarf. Switch it on a grass move, get the boost, and then, now you're +1. So that's cool offensively. And yeah, that's basically it stat-wise. I mean, I think the stats make perfect sense. It's, again, pretty quick for, relatively fast. Not actually fast, but relatively fast. Very bulky on the HP and defense side just because of the, look at this thing, right? It's like a fucking 8-foot tall 1-ton horse, Clydesdale horse. And then its attack is slightly better just for flavor. Honestly, if it was up to me, I would have made it even higher, but BST limitations and stuff. And I think it makes more sense to be like a little bit bulkier oriented while still being strong. Meanwhile, again, another pure ground type like Hippowdon is a little bit more offensive and has different utility with different abilities and stuff. So yeah, thanks for listening. Shout out to you if you made it to the end. I do appreciate that very much, y'all. Is there anything else I want to touch on before I end? I don't think so. It's pretty much everything, man. So yeah, thanks, y'all. Drop a comment if you made it to the end. Peace.